Imagine for a moment, a young, brash artillery officer, clad in an unmistakable gray coat, looking out across a rugged Italian landscape. His troops are poorly fed, barely trained, and clad in tatters. Facing him is a well-equipped coalition of Austrians and Sardinians, seasoned warriors ready to defend their homelands. On paper, it's a massacre waiting to happen. But history, my friends, is not written on paper, it's etched in blood, sweat, and the audacity of the human spirit. Welcome to a turning point in history that defied all odds. Stick around to discover the untold story of a battle so groundbreaking that it catapulted an unknown officer into the annals of military legend. 1796, a year filled with strife, revolution, and the early winds of change that would eventually sweep across Europe. France was the epicenter of this turmoil, its revolution sending shockwaves through the aristocracies and monarchies of the old continent. But amid this upheaval, Napoleon Bonaparte was about to make his indelible mark on history. You see, France was not merely in a state of internal disarray, she was also a besieged nation, beleaguered on all sides by enemies who could smell the scent of vulnerability wafting from her borders. And it wasn't just one or two adversaries to fend off, France was facing a full-scale coalition. Picture this like the clash of titans, a full-fledged coalition led by the great powers of Europe, namely Austria and the Kingdom of Sardinia. Their seasoned armies were not just marking time, they were strategically positioned in northern Italy, swords sharpened, cannons primed, like ravenous wolves eager to pounce. Now, here's where the tale takes a turn toward the audacious, even the unimaginable. The Directory, France's governing body at the time, in a move that teetered on the brink of desperation or perhaps genius, handed over the reins of the beleaguered army of Italy to Napoleon. Yes, a 26-year-old general with limited experience but an intellect as sharp as a guillotine's blade was given this Herculean task. Let's visualize this moment: Napoleon, standing before a map, his keen eyes scanning the terrain, while outside his tent, his army of approximately 37,000 men huddled around flickering campfires. These were not the polished, well-fed legions of later Napoleonic fame. No, these were ill-equipped, poorly clothed, and demoralized troops. And they were up against a wall, an enemy force numbering over 50,000, battle-hardened and better supplied. On paper, anyone would have called it, this was a recipe for utter disaster. It would have been so easy to see this as a lost cause, to resign himself to the fate that seemed so likely, but that would be to misunderstand the man. Napoleon looked at this ragtag bunch, this army of Italy, and saw not a hapless group of soldiers but a diamond in the rough. It was as if he could see past the grime, the hunger, and the weariness, and see the gleaming potential for something extraordinary. So, as the odds stacked higher and higher against him, Napoleon's resolve only strengthened. Ah, the genius of strategy. Our young general, Napoleon Bonaparte, surveyed the Italian landscape. Picture this: rolling hills and valleys that cradled the enemy troops, scattered like a chessboard waiting for a masterstroke. Your average general might think, let's build fortifications. Let's hold the line and wear them down. But we're not talking about any ordinary general. We're talking about Napoleon, a man for whom audacity was second nature, a rule rather than an exception. He eyed the Austrians and the Sardinians, each entrenched in their positions, comfortably distant from one another. Instead of facing each head-on, which would be like banging his head against a stone wall, Napoleon devised an extraordinary plan, both simple and daring in its elegance. His aim? To thrust his army like a dagger between the Austrian and Sardinian forces, splitting them apart, and then, with the swiftness of a hawk diving for its prey, defeat each in a separate, isolated engagement. Divide and conquer wasn't just a strategy for Napoleon, it was an art form, painted on the canvas of rugged Italian terrain. Now fast forward to April 12th, the sky awash with the hues of dawn. An aura of electric tension enveloped Napoleon's men. Imagine their hearts, a cacophony of thumping beats, pounding louder than any war drum. Their muskets? Rusty. Their uniforms? Tattered. But their resolve? It was like tempered steel, unyielding, unbending. As the sun ascended, painting the world in shades of light, Napoleon stood before them. He didn't give a lengthy oration. He didn't need to. His very presence was their inspiration. With a gaze as sharp as an eagle, he gave the signal. A piercing battle cry reverberated through the air, a chorus of voices unleashing their pent-up anticipation. Swords unsheathed, muskets raised, they stormed forward like a tempest unleashed. The Battle of Montenotte was not just a confrontation, it was a catharsis. Now, onto the crux of the battle, the grand stratagem that made Napoleon a master of warfare. The Austrians, well entrenched and brimming with confidence, anticipated a head-on collision. But Napoleon had no such pedestrian plans. Instead, he dispatched a portion of his army, a tantalizing bait, to feign an attack and draw their focus. Like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, Napoleon used this diversion to execute his real masterstroke. While the Austrians were riveted on the feigned attack, he led the bulk of his forces on a flanking maneuver, swooping around the enemy's side like a wolf circling its prey. The Austrian lines, caught utterly off guard, crumbled like a house of cards in a gust of wind. And let's not forget the Sardinians, who found themselves ensnared in a similar web of tactical brilliance. Unprepared for the storm that hit them, their lines faltered and broke, as if struck by a lightning bolt of French audacity. Napoleon's men, energized by their initial triumph over the Austrians, poured onto the Sardinians like a torrential river breaking through a dam. Within hours, the battlefield was cleared, and the once cocky Sardinians were retreating, tails between their legs, utterly humiliated. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with twilight hues, two enemy armies, once formidable, once daunting, were in disarray, beaten, shattered. Now, you might ask, why should you even care about a battle fought in some Italian village more than 2 centuries ago? The answer is simple yet profound. Montenotte is not merely a battle, it's a case study, a masterclass in the most brilliant and audacious military leadership the world has ever seen. Imagine, just for a moment, being a soldier under Napoleon's command. What you'd feel isn't just the excitement of battle but the exhilaration of being a part of something monumental. Montenotte serves as a classroom where the syllabus is written in courage, the lectures are delivered in audacity, and the final exam tests the unbreakable limits of the human spirit. This battle teaches us a life lesson that transcends time and geography. Sometimes, the underdog isn't content just to growl or whimper. Sometimes, the underdog roars so loudly that it shakes the heavens and rattles the earth. Montenotte is a tribute to every individual who dares to dream, who defies the odds, who risks it all to seize a fleeting moment and transform it into eternity. It's a testament to those who don't wait for history to shape them but take the chisel into their own hands and carve their destiny into the unyielding stone of time. In a world that often celebrates caution and disparages risk, Montenotte stands as an eternal beacon, reminding us that history, real history, is crafted not in the safe harbors of hesitation but in the tempestuous seas of daring and action. It reminds us that heroes are born not in comfort but in struggle, that genius is revealed not in simplicity but in complexity, and that legends are forged not in the absence of fear but in the mastery of it. If you like this episode and want to hear more extraordinary tales that shaped our world, then hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep the wheels of time turning.